Today is Friday, Yud Aleph Nissen, Yom HaBohir, Yud Aleph Nissen, the Rebbe's birthday. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer HaMamorim, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis. The Maimer of Yom Beis, the Chag HaShavua, Tovshin Yud Aleph, the Maimer is Alpayim Shana. And we are up to Ois Beis, chapter 2, on page Tzadik Gimel. The question we're addressing in this Maimer is what is the concept of time before the creation of the world? The Maimer Chazal is that the Torah preceded the creation of the world by 2,000 years. What meaning is there to time before the creation of the world? Time itself is a created entity, a created phenomenon, just like anything else. It's yesh ma'ayin. The Rebbe explained from the Frierdiker Rebbe, brings from the Frierdiker Rebbe that Alpayim Shana refers, Aleph is from the expression of also learning, teaching. A'alefcha chochma, a'alefcha bina, I'll teach you chochma, I'll teach you bina. Alpayim is a reference to 2000. It means basically chochma. It refers to levels. The Torah preceded the world in level. Torah is from the level of Alpayim, referring to Chachma Bina, or as a catch-all to Moichin, stems from the intellectual attributes of Ein Sof, whereas the world emanates from the emotional aspects of attributes of Ein Sof. Sheishes Yomim Asa Hashem Es Hashemayim V'Sa'aretz, the 6 middays are the tool through which Hashem creates the worlds. So that's connected to Midas. Whereas Torah is from Chachma Bina. So when we say Kodma Torah, it's a reference to the level. The level of Torah is from Mechin, the intellect. The level of Midas is from, and the level of the world emanates from the Midas. Okay. However, says the Rebbe, chapter 2 is Beis, Adayin Tzarech Lahavin, we still need to understand, but Maimer Azal, Alpayim Shana Kodma Torah La'olam. We still need to understand something in this saying of the sages that the Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. Yes, okay, I understand you're talking about Maila, level. Torah precedes the world on level, it's on a higher level. But Lama Choshiv Maila Satera Kfi Shehi Sha'ashuyim Yom Yom. Why do the Chazal over here refer to Torah as it is greater, higher than the world, but at the level of Shashuyim Yom Yom, His delight, Hashem's delight every day, Yom Yom, or 2 times Yom, 2 days Alpayim Shana? What's the question? Which is Alpayim Shana, the Shana, which is the idea of 2,000 years, because a day of Hashem is considered is 1,000 years, and therefore Yom Yom is Alpayim Shana, which is a reference to Chachma Bina. Fine. If you remember, when we quoted this pasuk, I actually quoted the 2 psukim in Mishlei that where this Va'eheya Etzli Amain, the pasuk is brought. I'll read it again. In Mishlei, in chapter 8, pasuk Lamed, it says as follows: Va'eheya Etzli Amain, I was a nursling beside him. Va'eheya Sha'ashuyim Yom Yom, and I was his delight every day. Misachekes lefonav b'chol eis, playing before him at all times. That's pasuk Lamed. Pasuk Lamed Aleph is Misachekes b'sevel artzei, playing in his habitable world, playing in the habitable world of his. V'shashuei es b'nei Adam, and having my delight with the children of man. These are 4 or 5 statements that are said in these 2 psukim as references to Torah, different descriptions of Torah, but they're not just describing Torah describing the same thing in different words, just giving Torah different names, describing different qualities that Torah possesses. In fact, each of these descriptions refers to another level of Torah. We know that there's Torah at every level, right? So when we start from the beginning, in the Pasuk Lamed, it says, I was a nursling beside him, and I was his delight every day. Clearly, Torah as a nursling beside Hashem is a higher level of Torah as his delight every day. Sha'ashuyim, his delight is one thing. A nursling, if you're talking about the Gashmis, physically, is obviously closer to the one that nurses the nursling, so to speak, right? So is Torah at a higher level. What's the reference over here? Chazal say Torah preceded the world by Alpayim, by 2,000 years, by these 2,000 levels, Chochmah and Bina. Shana. We learned from the Yom Yom. So we're connecting it to the level of Torah as it is described in this section of the Pasuk that refers to Torah as Sha'ashuyim, which is the lower level than Almain. Why? That's the question that Rebbe says. Why does he talk about Torah here? Chazal talk about Torah here, as it is Sha'ashuyim Yom Yom, which is from which we deduce the idea of Alpayim, because the day of Hashem is 1,000 years, and there's a reference to Chochmah and Bina because it's Alpayim 2,000. And it doesn't refer to Torah here as it is at a higher level. Concerning which it says before this Yom Yom Sha'ashuyim Yom Yom. Before that it says, and I was a nursling beside him, which is a higher level of Torah. So he explains, it seems that the order of the pasuk here is from above to below. In other words, from the higher level to the lower level. The beginning of the pasuk, the verse is that I was, quote, I was a nursling beside him, which is a reference to Torah, but the koi ala Torah kfi shibatz, this refers to Torah as it is bound up in the very essence of Hashem. So that's a higher level, Torah at a much higher level. And after that, the pasuk continues. The pasuk continues and says, I was his delight every day. What is that a reference to? That is already how, as we explained previously, quite at length, that this is a reference to Torah as it is in the level of Chochmah and Bina. That's the Yom Yom, that's the Alpayim. So it's already lower than Torah as it is in Atzmos, in the very essence of Hashem. Then the pasuk continues and enumerates a number of other levels. Umisayim, and concluding with which level? V'shashuei es b'nei Adam, as it is my delights with the children of man. Right? So that's already Torah at the level of man. The koy ala Torah k'vi sheyard l'mata, that's already a reference to Torah as it has descended down below. What's the point? The point is that the pasuk goes milmayla l'mata, starting from Torah, the highest level, and goes in a descending order. What's the result? It comes out that the greatest level of Torah is referenced in the part of the pasuk at the very beginning of pasuk Lamed, where he states, I was a nursling beside him. And the second level is Alpayim Shana Kadma Torah L'Briyah Shalem Shashuy Yom Yom. What is the reason that in this saying of our sages, the quality, the level of Torah is explained as it is at the level of his delight, Yom Yom, the level of Alpayim Shana, as Torah is in Chachma and Bina, this is not the greatest, highest level of Torah, as it is expressed in these psukim, which would be, I was a nursling beside him, Torah as it is at the level of the very essence of Hashem. Klar? The pasuk enumerates here 4 or 5 different descriptions of Torah. One is describing Torah as it is a nursling beside Hashem. That's the first one. The second one is describing Torah as it is a plaything of Hashem, Yom Yom, every day. A reference to Yom Yom, 2 days. A reference to Alpayim Shana, 2,000 years, because Hashem's year is 1,000. Hashem's day is 1,000 years.
Why use the word nursling beside him? What's the significance of nursling beside him? Is a nursling a tree plant, a small plant?
No, a child, like an infant, which is very much connected to the mother, right? So that's a reference to Torah as it is very close to Hashem Himself. Meaning to say Torah as it is at the level of Atzmos, the very essence of Hashem, right? The next level is Torah as we described it here, Alpayim Shana, based on all the questions that I've asked. What's the concept of time before the world is created? So the Rebbe, so he brought from the Friedrich Rebbe that it's a reference to Torah as it is at the level of Chochmah and Bina, right? That's Alpayim Shana.
And why does it connect with Chochmah and Bina?
Because it says in the pasuk, there's a reference based on a pasuk in Eiv. A'alefcha chochma, a'alefcha bina. I will teach you chochma, I will teach you bina. So a'alefcha, elef, alpayim, yom yom. That's how we worked it back, and that is the level of sha'ashuyim. Torah is a plaything, Hashem's plaything. So that's a lower level. So the first one is as Torah is at the level of connected to the essence of Hashem. The next one is as Torah comes down to a lower level, at the level of Chochmah and Bina. And it's there that our sages say, Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. And the question that I asked was, what's the concept of time before the world was created? And the answer was, we're not talking about time, actual time. We're talking about level, because the world emanates from the level of Midas, the emotional attributes, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Sheishes Yomim, Osa Hashem, Es Hashemayim, Es Haaretz. Hashem created the 6 days, the 6 spiritual days, which is what? The 6 Midas, from which Shemayim v'Oretz come forth. So the world is related to the Midas dimensions of the 10 spheres, and Torah is from the Moichin, from the intellectual levels of spheres, Chochmah and Bina, Alpayim, Yom Yom, and so on and so forth, right? But where does that connect to which part of the pasuk? To the second part of the pasuk. We refer to Torah as Sha'ashuyim, a plaything. Says the Rebbe, but before that, the pasuk describes Torah as a nursling, which means which refers to Torah as it is at the level of the very essence of Hashem. So why do the sages home in on Torah at the level of Chochmah Bina? In the same pasuk, it talks about Torah at a higher level. If you're here to describe how much greater Torah is than the world's, so talk about Torah as it is with bound up with the very essence of Hashem. Because in the same pasuk you have that. Why focus in on the level of Shashuyim, of Torah at the level of Chochmah Bina? That's the question. So over here, the proposition that Rebbe put forward was that the pasuk is talking in descending order. First describing Torah as Amen, a nursling. Torah as it is in Atzmos, very essence of Hashem. Then describing Torah as Shashuyim, a plaything. Torah as is in the level of Chochmah Bina, a notch down. And then coming all the way to the end of Pasuk Lamed Aleph, where he describes Torah as Sha'ashuei es b'nei Adam, a plaything of man, right? Torah as it is Lamata, down here. Now that Rebbe says, perhaps we can interpret the Pasuk that it doesn't go in descending order, but perhaps it goes in ascending order. How? Let's see. Hinei l'chura ef shaleimar. It would seem that we could possibly say that the order of the pasuk is actually what? In ascending order. In other words, the first mention in the pasuk is the lower level, and as the pasuk progresses, it goes to a higher level and a higher level, opposite than we explained now. Sharei, how could we explain this? Because concerning the definition of Torah as a Amen, Torah referred to as an Amen, here we're defining it as a nursling. Right? That's like the expression that we find in the Megillah, Vayehi Amen es Hadassah, that Mordechai nursed Esther. Esther was an orphan. Mordechai raised her. So it says Vayehi Amen es Hadassah, that Mordechai raised Esther, and the Medrash Taka says, the commentators they say, Chazal say, I think it's in the Gemara actually, in Megillah, that Mordechai actually physically nursed her. that there was a miracle that he was able to nurse her. So Eimein over here we're defining Eimein as a nursling. But he says there's another definition of Eimein. What's the other definition of Eimein? Eimein Ombain is from sorry? Craftsman, precisely. Or something to do with crafting. Torah as a tool of Hashem. That's the word. A tool. What does it mean? The Medrash says, the Torah says, declares, Ani hayisi klei umnaseh shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I was the craft tool of Hashem. What does that mean? Because Hashem would look into the Torah and create the world. Right? You know the famous Lashon? Istakal b'iraisa ubara alma. Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. The Torah is the blueprint of the world and so on and so forth. So what would come out of over here?
That means that the blueprint was there before Hashem.
Ask Kevin if there is a blueprint that exists before he draws it.
No, because
Does
that's
it?
what you're saying.
In your head first.
If he looked into the blueprint,
It means that he had, like Kevin says, he had it in his head. He then spelt it out in the Torah, right? And then he looked into the Torah and created the world. It's another way of saying that Hashem created the world according to the Torah. Meaning to say that the Torah precedes the world, and the Torah emanates from, Torah is constructed according to the rules, the world is constructed according to the rules of the Torah. That's the reference.
Where's the reference from? It's Taka,
I have to look it up. I don't remember offhand. But over here, he brings clearly from the Medrash. This is a Medrash. This is a Medrash in, it doesn't say exactly this Lashon, Istakal b'raisa bara alma, but he's saying the same thing in Lashon Kodesh. Shaya mabit b'Torah u'beiriyas ha'olam. He would look in the Torah and create the world, meaning to say that the Torah was created, the world was created according to the Torah. Balpiza nimtza. So what does it come out over here? And this is what? This is the definition in this Medrash of the pasuk v'ehya etzli amen. Which is what? The first part of the pasuk, before Shashuayas b'nei Adam. Before the part of the pasuk from which we learned that the Torah preceded the world by 2,000 years. According to this, it would come out that V'eya etzli amen is actually a description of the Torah as it is already connected to what? To Welt. As what? As a tool through which Hashem creates the world. As a blueprint or as a reference manual in which Hashem looks in order to create the world. And after that, then he reckons the quality, the special quality, the uniqueness of Torah, the higher level of Torah, that it is Hashem's plaything Yom Yom, which is this is the level of Torah as it is the level of Meichin, the intellectual attributes of the 10 spheres, Chacham and Bina, which is higher than the world. Why? Because the world is connected to the Midas, as we just explained. We have a problem. What's with Shashuayas b'nei Adam? That it's a plaything of man. That seems to be going down. If we're going in ascending order, how do you interpret that? So in the brackets, the Rebbe says, "Misayim v'Shashuayas b'nei Adam." Then he concludes Takya, the pasuk, the second pasuk, by saying a plaything with man, which is indeed a reference to Torah as it is down here. But this is not a description of a low level of Torah. On the contrary, this is a description of Torah at the highest level. Torah down here, even though it's lamata, but it expresses the very highest level of Torah. Why? This is the greatest level of Torah. Because only specifically through the Aveda of a person, through serving Hashem down here lamata, you actually reach the very highest level, as will be explained later on. Right? Bottom line, my question was, says the Rebbe, that Chazal pick a lower level. They should have picked Omain, right? As Torah is at the very highest level. Why pick the second level? So the Rebbe says that's all fine and well if you interpret the pasuk Milmayel Lamata. But if you start interpreting in descending order, but if you're interpreting the pasuk Milmata Lamayla in ascending order, so Shashuayas b'nei Adam, Torah is as it is at level of Chacham and Bina is higher than V'eya etzli amen. Torah as it is a tool of Hashem for the creation of the world. Says the Rebbe, okay, that's fine. Amnam aval the emes in the V'eya etzli amen who amayla yesir aliyena b'Torah. Okay, moving to Pirush Rashi, Amen Gdoila Etzle. As Rashi says on this pasuk, "V'ayetz Amen," that Torah was very great by Hashem. That's how the Pirush Rashi explains Amen, which means the simple pasuk, right? Simple title of the pasuk means that this is the ultimate description of Torah, is as at a level of Amen. So what are we going to do about the medrash that says that it's a tool? Yeah, if we interpret it as a nursling, that's fine. But as a tool, it would seem that it's talking about Torah at a lower level. So we're compelled to say, therefore, we're compelled to say that Torah, even as it is described as what? As a tool of Hashem, a craft tool, a tool with which Hashem crafted the world. Even though you're talking about the Torah as it is connected to the world, nevertheless, this expresses a very high level of Torah, even beyond what? Sha'ashuyim. And therefore, we return back to our original question: why choose the second level? Why not choose the highest level? But before we address the question, the Rebbe is going to explain how Torah, even as described as a tool, is still a description of Torah at the very highest level. And then he's going to address the question of why he chooses the second level. But more mitzvah about that. Well, Sunday is Erev Pesach. Are we going to learn on Sunday morning? Why not? What time is Shachar Sunday morning?
Normal time, I think, no?
Normal time. So we'll learn Sunday morning. Monday morning is Erev Pesach. Again, it's going to be normal time. So I guess we're going to learn Sunday and Monday, and then we'll probably break until Isur Chag. Yeah?
Mondays also.
I'm talking about Sunday, Monday we'll learn. Then it's Yom Tov.
Yes.
Unless you want to do
Monday, I don't think it's going to. Monday people will be selling. I don't know.
Okay, we'll do Sunday and we'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
Okay?